It is a start of a new week for West Virginia fans, and that's a good sign as the Mountaineers fall in the season over 38-15 to number 7 Penn State. But hey, I mean, we all kind of expected that was going to be an uphill battle heading into Happy Valley. It was a 3-touchdown favorite type of game for Penn State, and we kind of all knew it was going to happen. It was just a matter of when things would kind of spiral out of control and if it did. And obviously that happened there in the second half. West Virginia hung around for the first half, but again, they couldn't take advantage of some of those opportunities that Penn State left out there on the table, missing those 2 field goals and unable to respond from that. And then obviously in the second half, things just kind of got away from West Virginia. Couldn't really get anything offensively going. So new week. They start this week, their home schedule, at least, against Duquesne. That kickoff is slated for 6 p.m. and will be televised on ESPN+. And I think what we'll do here each Monday here on Between the Ears is kind of go over the good, the bad, and the ugly of the previous week's games. So, and that may change from week to week, but and maybe we'll even have a second episode on Mondays, depending on what comes out of these Neil Brown press conferences that are now on Mondays instead of Tuesdays. So the good, let's start with that, and then we'll work our way to the really bad stuff. The good, I would say, would be the offensive line running, or excuse me, the offensive line run blocking. I thought that was phenomenal. I think there's a lot of pin and pull action. There was a lot of success really in some of that inside zone game. There's a lot of success running the ball right behind Zach Frazier. The interior of that offensive line doing a really good job getting downhill and getting to that second level. I thought they really just they moved the point of attack, and I think that was kind of something we all expected from this experienced group. But until you actually see it in an actual game, you just never know. So I think what we saw run blocking wise was really good. CJ Donaldson, of course, didn't probably get the amount of touches that they would have liked to, but that's because of you falling behind the game a little bit. You need to kind of catch back up and throw the ball around. But I thought when he did have the ball in his hands, he did a phenomenal job. And then defensively, I would say Lee Koba is probably the biggest bright spot of that group, or at least of that side of the ball. I mean, he was just all over the place. And, you know, there were some poor pursuits. There were some poor angles taken by some of the defenders. And, you know, he kind of had to play the garbage man, if you will, and kind of clean some things up there in that second level. So he did a really good job of, you know, just shutting things down and preventing big plays from turning into explosive plays, and just found a way to always be around the ball. So I think that's a very positive sign for Lee Koba. Trey Lathan, I thought, did a really good job in his first start, the redshirt freshman, who I have been very high on since he came to Morgantown. I feel like this is kind of going to be a big first step for him, and I think he's going to have a really good season. And I think the only other thing that I could say that was good about this game was I think that the pressure was good in some spots. Again, I don't really want to put it completely there because it wasn't consistent enough. It wasn't like they were truly getting home to Drew Allar a lot, but they did enough to kind of to rush his decisions at times and put him in some tough spots. And I think really the thing that you want to see now is those guys in that front seven finish those plays, get to the quarterback, make a hit, get some sacks, get some TFLs on the run game, because I think that's where they kind of lacked. They weren't really finishing those plays. They were getting there, but not getting there quite soon enough. Moving to the bad. The bad, I would probably lean toward the passing game. It was okay at times. There were some bright spots in it, which is why I'm not putting that as the ugly. But it's got to be better. Okay, you can't have an offense that throws the ball beyond the line of scrimmage only a handful of times in the first half. I mean, you're just not going to win games. And again, that's why I went back to, you know, I know one of my keys to win this game for West Virginia was to establish the run, really kind of move the ball methodically, take some of those drives and really kind of spread them out over 7 or 8 minutes. Yes, you want those methodical drives, but you have to have an explosive play here and there. You have to take some shots down the field, whether it's to Devin Carter or Cortez Braham or even Cole Taylor at tight end up the seam. You've got to find ways to establish some of those explosive plays, and they just didn't do that in the passing game. Now, when you're able to run the football and you're able to convert third downs and you're able to convert fourth downs and stay on the field, that's kind of what I was expecting, or what not what I was expecting, but maybe more so the key to the game, the formula to get this game a little bit closer was you have to convert those third and mediums, those third and shorts to stay on the field. I'm not saying run the ball on 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 8 and stick to that, which is what they did. I don't understand that. I don't know if it's a lack of trust in Garrett Greene. I don't know whether it's a lack of trust in the protection, which is, again, part of this equation here. And the pass protection was just not good enough. There was some bright spots with it. I thought they handled it well at times, but they really struggled in certain pressure looks. And I think they had a hard time kind of passing some things off. Greene was almost in a situation where he had to either take off with the ball or throw it as soon as he got the snap. And that's not what you want. You got to have time to kind of go through these progressions. And sometimes it took a little bit too long. There's got to be some more quick hitter stuff out of the backfield. There's got to be some drag routes, some crossers, something, some mesh concepts. There's got to be things that happen, develop quickly and more quicker, but you also still have to have that downfield element. So there's got to be a nice, healthy balance, and they just never really found that in this game. So it was a little bit of Garrett Greene missing some throws. It was a little bit of the offensive line not protecting well enough in certain pressure looks. And then you also had the wide receivers that were just not great. Okay. They were, if we're being honest, there was a couple of drops. They weren't really getting separation. And credit to Penn State to a certain extent too, because that is a very good secondary. Kalen King's a first-round draft pick. You're not going to see guys like Kalen King the rest of the year. So you should, in theory, only go uphill from here. In theory. But you would have thought you would have saw a little bit more of Devin Carter down the field. You would have thought you would have seen a little bit more of Cortez Braham down the field than we did, and we just didn't. So they've got to find a way to get the passing game going, and obviously that starts up front with the big guys. But I think this is obviously a good week against Duquesne to kind of to knock out some of those kinks and figure things out. So now moving to the ugly, and I think this is very obvious at this point what this is, and I think you probably already knew that at the beginning of the show. The pass defense, man, it was atrocious. Atrocious. I'm not really sure what the explanation was for how bad it was. Obviously, we'll find out here in a little bit. We'll hear from Neil Brown and Jordan Leslie, the D coordinator, kind of get their thoughts after watching the tape, what really happened. But it was just a lot of, from what I could tell, it looked like a lot of guys that just were playing their coverages wrong. It looked like some miscommunication at times. It just looked like a hodgepodge of everything. And it was almost like guys were kind of surprised that these receivers were getting so wide open. I mean, there was, I can't even tell you how many times where a Penn State receiver found a soft spot in the zone and you had a safety or a corner turning his back to the play. And there was nobody behind them to make the play or to clean things up. So you got to eliminate those explosive plays. And I think I kind of expected better out of this group. Again, I said that this secondary, I thought, was much better than it was a year ago. And I still think they will be. I think it's one game, it's Penn State. It's the best team you'll play all season. So there's still reason to believe that this secondary will be much improved, but there's got to be a dramatic jump from week 1 to week 2. And thankfully, again, you have Duquesne to fix some of those things. But it just felt like that secondary wasn't really on the same page. It felt like there was a lot of surprises, and you really kind of almost didn't really hear some of these guys' names pop up. We've been talking about Anthony Wilson and, Beanie Bishop, credit to him. He did have a decent game. He had, 2 picks that fell right into his hands and he just dropped them, one in the end zone. You got to have those types of plays made in those types of games if you're going to win them. But he showed up at least. But some of the other guys like Malachi Ruffin was kind of quiet. Andrew Wilson Lamp had a rough game. Keyshawn Cobb was silent. So I mean, Aubrey Burks, and everyone wants to talk about the touchdown that he gave up. I credit him for that. I think, and I think I said this on my show yesterday, or maybe it was after the game in the post game show, but I give him credit for going for the interception. Again, you have to make those types of plays. You have to make game changing type plays in those types of games if you're going to have a chance to win them. He went for the interception, didn't get it. Okay, you move on. It's one touchdown. But the rest of the game, though, he didn't play very well. So there's a lot of expectations for Aubrey Burks. There's a lot of expectations for Anthony Wilson, Beanie Bishop, even Andrew Wilson Lamp. Those guys have to step up. And I think we can all expect that to happen here in week 2. And maybe that'll carry over to week 3. It's got to carry over to week 3 if they want to avoid a 1-2 start to the season. So there is your good, bad, and ugly of week 1, West Virginia, Penn State. And again, like I said, we'll be hearing from Neil Brown, Jordan Leslie, and Chad Scott here in just a few hours here at the Pushkar Center. So we'll maybe throw one more episode up later tonight. Not 100% sure. If not, we will be back with one on, I believe, Wednesday. So that'll do it for me here at the moment. I'm Schuyler Callihan. You've been watching Between the Ears. Be sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube at Mountaineers Now. And if you want to cop some of our gear, there's a link in the description on the YouTube video for you to go and find some stickers, some hats, t-shirts, hoodies, whatever you want. We've got some cool gear there for you. So thank you guys for watching here on the Between the Ears show. I'm Schuyler Callihan. We'll see you back here soon. Take care.